Hi, I'm Carol. Welcome to Let's Talk Dementia. Today we're going to talk about sex, and I hope that got your attention. It really makes some ears perk up, you know. But what I want to talk to you about is sex in an assisted living setting. Well, people will call me every once in a while and want to talk about sex and their loved ones. It's not a topic you generally get into, talking about your parents' sex life, so it makes everybody a little bit uncomfortable. But this week I received a phone call from a gentleman who, that is the conversation we had, his dad's sex life, or potentially lack thereof. Unfortunately, it occurred that his dad has been asked to leave the assisted living that he is living in because of inappropriate sexual behavior. So, of course, my question is, what was that behavior? I mean, what did he do? Did he talk about sex? Did he act upon sex? Did he take his clothes off, or did somebody with him take their clothes off? What happened? And what do we call sex? And so he began to describe to me the situation as he saw it. And basically, it seems the individual, the lady that is involved in this story with his dad, is really the one doing the initiating. She invites him to her apartment upstairs, and there is no upstairs, but still, she invites him to her apartment so they can have fun. Well, now I don't know what have fun might mean to them, but I have an idea of what she's talking about because she's very suggestive, very flirty, and she rubs against him when she makes these recommendations. Unfortunately, he was the one asked to move. So it made me wonder who really is the issue, who is really causing the problem here. And in this instance, I'm afraid the wrong person's being asked to move. So I said, well, obviously we've got to find a new home for Dad, and I'm very happy to help him do that. But the likelihood of him presenting a sexual problem in his new community is pretty low, because we believe this other lady was initiating the activity. So if you think your loved ones with dementia aren't thinking about sex, you are wrong. They are. Now, their abilities to act upon those thoughts, those ideas, those feelings, those emotions, that has been hampered quite a lot by physical issues as well as cognitive issues. But believe me when I tell you, the desire, the thoughts, they're still there. Hormones are still racing. We're still thinking about, well, you know what we're thinking about. And we sometimes, in the process of having dementia, will try to act out on those emotions. Now, we see that more so with folks who have frontal lobe dementia. This part of their brain is more diseased than another part of the brain. It's called frontotemporal lobe dementia, the frontal lobe, the temporal lobe. And in that instance, the ability to discern between what's appropriate and inappropriate is highly affected. So we might not think anything at all about getting into bed and being naked with someone we don't even know, because that does not process in the brain as, whoa, red flag, stop, shouldn't do that. So realize that if your loved one is acting upon those sexual urges, it is something you need to be aware of. But don't get crazy and jump the gun. If they're just in the bed together and they're not hurting anybody, leave them alone. It's not hurting a soul. And then I'm going to go so far as to say, and I have a feeling some of you are going to write me about this, and I hope you do, I'm going to go so far as to say, if they are touching each other and that's all they're doing, maybe you should just leave that alone. You're going to open up a whole can of worms if you get too involved in it. Now, sexual intercourse is happening, and then we got issues. If we've got naked bodies, we might have issues, because now we've got health issues. We've got to think about diseases. We got to think about the practicality and the potential for harm to one individual or the other. So be aware of that. But don't get worked up just because Mama's invited somebody to her apartment and they may be sitting and hugging and kissing and maybe rubbing a little bit, but you know, we're just going to kind of let that go. I know a lot of you growing up wish your mom and daddy had have done that, but they didn't, did they? They stayed on you and told you to behave. But now I'm telling you, with mom and daddy, you might want to let that go. I have a client who does very little during the day. He's not involved in squat diddly, and you can't really get him to do anything. But every night after dinner, he sits on the sofa and he holds hands with the lady that lives in that community, and they watch television together. Now, there are those that would go, oh, he shouldn't do that. And my answer to that is, mind your own business, because it's good for both of them. It's a relaxing time. They're together. They're just holding hands, for heaven's sakes. You You hold hands with strangers, it's okay. But do be aware that the sexual urges are there. Sometimes the ability to act on those sexual urges may be low, it may be dangerous, it may be awkward, and it should be stopped, but the sexual urges are there. We got to deal with that, don't we? Well, I hope that gives you something to think about. We believe that knowledge brings power, power brings hope, and hope brings smiles. That's why we make these videos. That's why you need to subscribe so you don't miss one. Blessings and smiles. Now, I've got your mind off sex for a few minutes. Let's giggle a bit. But thinking about couples, there was a couple that had been married for a very long time, and he had not always been all that easy to get along with. And one day he looked at his wife and he said, "Honey, I know in all our married years I may not have been all that easy to get along with, and I've been grouchy and crotchety and maybe argue with you about things I shouldn't argue with you." And he said, "I just want to know, how have you handled it all these years?" And she said, "Oh, honey, it's not a problem. Whenever you did that, I would just go to the bathroom and clean the toilet." And he said, "Clean the toilet? How could that possibly help?" She said, "I used your toothbrush." Blessings and smiles. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel. When you subscribe, you'll be able to stay up to date on our latest videos, and all of the videos are free. Check out my book, Let's Talk Dementia. It is available on Amazon. The link is in the description below. Blessings and smiles.